Good afternoon, class. Today, my name is Jalen Hollis, and today I will be talking about the reflection of the six-time CMO, uh, Joe Trappai. He first hit the scene in 1989 with MasterCard. MasterCard. He was very successful at a early start. He realized that you can't just always have success just dealing with one area. In order to become a CMO, you gotta hit the lower levels before you get high to be able to have that chance to even get higher. So he really stressed the fact that learn everything that you can because you can't grow without knowing different areas. You got to know all the areas within the business, and I can kind of relate to that. I recently just started my job with Lowe's, and within that job, I was very eager. I worked my way up fast. I was a fast learner. But when I had discussed, I told my boss one day, I want your job. I want to be higher. He said, first thing first, you got to make the horizontal moves before you make the vertical moves because learning all the areas is a very important thing you got to do in your job in order to show others that you'll qualify, all the areas and plus more. One thing I definitely took out of him being like the CMO, one of his biggest success was when he was with Allstate. He was able to come into our state with all the resources. He was able to be very flexible under his manager, his CEO, and that gave him the ability to really, tap into like what he wanted to do for the company and make the company more successful than what it was before. I wrote down a couple of questions as far as like what to answer within the article. So my first question it was like, what is a CMO? Pretty much a CMO is, it stands for Chief Marketing Officer, and their job is to, it's just not always advertising and communication. It's so much more. They have different areas they can go into. Um, a lot of people, a lot of jobs don't describe like exactly what a CMO, what the role is. They give you the short run of it, but they end up doing a lot more than you think. It deals with like R&D. What else did I write down? R&D, data analytics, pretty much targeting your customer. And he also mentioned that the future is pretty much going to be smart data. You'll be able to control that. You'll be able to control the future of your company. The second question I was asked, do you believe what Joe said? Yeah, I believed a lot of, I trusted in a lot of stuff he was saying in this article. To be successful, you got to be able to put yourself in the right predicament to, know that it's not always about advertising. It's about, being able to target the customer. What does the customer want? What are the customer needs? What else can you provide for the customer that, others can't do? So really digging into beyond advertising. My third question is, what was said that was the most impactful? The most impactful thing I say he said was pretty much, the responsibilities and communication that you gain within, being in that marketing. You got to be able to market on different levels. You know, Advertising and marketing has changed since, the early 40s going up to now. You can't advertise the same. At one point, you could advertise everything on TV. You can't do that anymore. Everybody doesn't watch TV like they used to, or they can record it and skip over the advertisement. So you got to find different ways of actually being able to reach out to your customer and pretty much drawing them in through other things like as far as social media, connecting with customers through social media, e-commerce, and different things like that. And they said you can't really. He mentioned another thing that he mentioned was you can't be successful without a CIO, which is a Chief Information Officer. You can't be successful to want to do your job if you can't, cooperate and actually work close with that person. Which that was very true. You got to be able to connect with those right there with you in order to, build where you want to be. So it's pretty much about building a strong team and everything like that. Um, the next question was, what should marketers do to improve these rules as a CMO? And what I took out of that, it was a passage, like in an article I read that it says to get more experience, you got to do different areas. So being able to go to different areas and learn what they do and incorporate and then put it in terms of like, how can this work as a company? How can we succeed with putting all these things together and, driving and, making it a global experience versus, within the company. You can't, more minds together versus just one mind together is a lot more powerful. You can see things from different perspectives. People see different things. People understand different things that people might not see because they might have experienced this and they know the results of it. So that's another big thing that you get out of that. My next question was, what stood out to me? Honestly, what stood out to me was him being able to adapt in his environment. He was able to, just to really fill out a company. Like he said, he wasn't successful at every job he had. He is a six-time CMO. He said, some companies you can't just walk in like, all right, I can make this happen. I can, show increase in profit or whatever. But it's not that easy. If the company doesn't give you the resources that you need, you're not gonna succeed. So his biggest success that I read was when he had walked in with Allstate, and they just pretty much gave him everything he needed, and that was pretty much like his biggest experience, the biggest standout that he had in his career that made him really shape him who he was. Um, my next question was, what should be the content? What can be the something that you continue to increase high ethics standards? And my thing I took out of that is pretty much when you go into a job interview, being upfront, like ask them questions, like how is the company? Where is the company standing? Like, is this really all that the criteria that come, with the job? Because a lot of jobs just put the bare minimum on what it is and what they do for the company and everything like that. You can't just go in there not knowing. You go in blind and just boom, hit the smack you can't bounce back for it. So he like I read in an article. He said be upfront conversation before they're taking the job. Ask them questions. Be assertive. Understand what is really driving the business today and what can you do to drive the business in the future. Do they got the resources that you need to make the company successful? And he also talked about a big challenge he faced when he had first joined Subway. Subway was a small business, and it's used to being like it ran as a small business instead of a huge business. Even though it had all these restaurants, over 45,000 restaurants in these countries, being able to market in a big from a big perspective, it was a lot different compared to when he was trying to do it with a big company that's already developed as like running as a big corporation. So that was a big challenge that he faced. But I took a lot of traits and a lot of things out of this. Most thing I probably took for the most out of this was being able to adapt, being able to understand the job that you're taking, and being able to you know, when you step in a situation, learn all the jobs you can. Don't rush to, try to jump right to the top. Take it step by step, learn this, learn that. You might take the next step might not be ready for you. You might be able to leap over that step in order to get where you want before that. So, my biggest takeout is, take horizontal moves before you take vertical moves. Really understand what you're doing in your job, what you want to understand, what you want to take out of your job. To be successful as a CMO, you got to put all those traits together and continue to build that experience with the company, building with different departments, and bringing it all together to make it a global experience that be successful as like a company. But that is my take. I hope y'all understood what I was coming from as far as with this discussion. If you have any questions, let me know. Please give me plenty of feedback. This is my first one. I enjoyed it. Great article. Thank you.